Well, thanks again for sticking with us. As always, we have the social network pages on Facebook. Join Us on TV is a page on Facebook, and we have a handle on Twitter, Join Us on TV. My guest here also has a handle on Twitter, and he's Horace Ni Ayankra, a former chairman of the NDC for UK Ireland. And what's your handle on Twitter, Horace? But thanks for joining me. It's been a while. I think I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. So
you've not seen me in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't invited you in 2 weeks. All right. The EC, according to the report, is said to have spent on what already has been suspended following the cause session, the district level elections, some 317 million Ghana cedis, and already we're told that they will need additionally about 90 million cedis more to enable them conduct the elections. And it seems that the postponement seem to have done a lot more harm than good.
Oh, good morning to your viewers. I think it is rather unfortunate that we should see the postponement of the assembly elections, because it is very important that in governance you adhere to the timetable that has been set, so that at least things will be moving smoothly. It is not unconstitutional if anybody at all also has a problem to actually go to the court for that to be looked into. So all in all, what I would say is that if the extra cost is because of the fact that this whole thing was sent to court and the postponement has been effected, then it's rather unfortunate. I would want to see this thing quickly settled and the district elections, take off, so that at least governance will take its place and everything should be moving on smoothly.
Importantly, we're told that if you go by the provisions of the Constitution, for which we have the legislative instruments that mandate the Electoral Commission to conduct the elections, it means that they would have to currently, as they have laid an instrument before the House, wait for 21 working days or sitting days of Parliament, and Parliament will be going in recess, and so they would have to come back before that will have to be conducted. In itself, would you say the Electoral Commission, based on hindsight, with all the perhaps warnings or the indications that have been given by not only the assembly member or the gentleman who wanted to contest the election, and also the various think tanks or civil society organization, thought through its processes before concluding that they still wanted to go ahead with the elections?
Well, I mean, what the gentleman did could even easily be done at the very last minute. I mean, you could go to court this morning, and by noon you would have an injunction. So certainly I believe that before then the EC knew that everything would have traveled on smoothly. But I mean, having said that, if you take everything into the whole equation, I mean, it's rather unfortunate. And as we move on, as a country, as a people, we should learn from certain things, so that at least in future we don't sort of like get ourselves involved in these things. I don't know, is it 317 was the budget, but now they want additional 90? Wow, that's huge, isn't it?
That's huge.
It is huge. You see, that's the more reason why these days, or I think I have said it before, that these exercises become so expensive due to the fact that our national identification thing is not, or has not been arrested, so that at least we have an effective national identification kind of system, so that elections and all these things will come cheap and easy.
Okay. What ultimately also means is that the Electoral Commissioner would have to be doing undertaking, printing, etc. For this the next process. Do you think that we can side or make comments on, or what observations would you have on comment that say the Electoral Commission perhaps may have been given too much powers, even though, of course, the law that sets it up says it has to be independent in many respects?
Well, I mean, all over the world, electoral commissions are very, very powerful. Well, they do take steps that are within the Constitution. I don't think any step would be anything outside the Constitution. So for whatever they do, if it's constitutional, then at least we should all give them backing, and then make sure that any program that they embark on is successful. So I think that, yes, if they are powerful in the sense to actually help us with our democratic dispensation. So at the end of the day, if whatever there is for them to do, and it's the right thing to do, we should give them our backing.
And since we feel they are powerful, but they are independent, who then perhaps supervises the supervisor?
Well, I know that the player can never be the referee. So the Constitution also sort of like supersedes their power, isn't it? So obviously they have a referee.
There have been calls that there should be, beyond a rendered apology from the chairman of the commission, perhaps some other introspection as far as perhaps coming out to resign or beyond the issues of apology. What do you say to that as well?
Well, for the, what do you call it?
The various, we have deputy commissioners who are there.
Deputy commissioners
chairman, as well as the various deputy commissioners for the various sub-areas, we have finance, etc.
Come again. You mean with the electoral commission?
Yes. There's been criticism that because of the cost that has been incurred as a result of perceived negligence by the commission, perhaps we need to have the various deputies resigning or people taking up responsibility for this very action that we've seen, or the outcome of...
Well, I don't think it calls for any resignation. I mean, if an individual feels peeved and he's taking the whole matter to the court and the court has actually addressed it, I don't see why people should resign. Let's actually make sure of certain things, learn from whatever is happening, and then in the near future we do things right. What I'm saying is that looking at the amount, I am concerned about the amount. When we get our national identification right, the money that we spend on elections will reduce more than by 50%. So it's another area that I think we should gear our energies into, so that at least future monies that we spend on elections will sort of like either halved or even 40–45% of it.
Talking about that, having a comprehensive national identification system, how does it help in complementing, let's say, an electoral register, for example?
Oh, massive. If you have a comprehensive national identification, what it does is that certainly as a country, you know where everybody is. You know your people. Not necessarily just the, what do you call it, the number of people that are in your country, but most importantly, where everybody is, what everybody is doing. You understand? Now, when you do that and you have a very good address system, what it is that even if in this particular household, you know that there are 8 people there, you can just send them, one single paper, one sheet, where everybody would acknowledge that, yes, up until this time, we are still at this address. So when it comes to election, with that same paper, they go down to the the polling station, and they just vote.
And that makes it very easy.
It makes it so easy. I mean, you go to some countries and they even do that in what? In simple pen or simple cross or simple pencil. And because that has been monitored to a point, yes, that piece of paper there is seriously up to date and everything is so easy.
Okay, as far as we have an inter-party advisory committee, and so these deliberations perhaps may have been ongoing at that. What should the commitment be from government as far as putting in place a whole national identification system?
I think at the moment we see that government is putting much effort into that. If you look around, you find out that the address system has been improved. I know AMA has done a lot. I mean, even in your area, Kokomlemle, you see that they have the new numbering system, they have the new, and street naming. It's another huge step that government has actually embarked on and has effectively done that. So there are the steps that government has actually taken that we should appreciate. But I think that the whole thing should have the speed of a revolution, at the same time the hallmarks of democracy.
Where you work or where your office is and where you live, it's been numbered?
Yes.
Is it easily identifiable?
Yeah. my street is what? Temple Street. My number is 207. So
something like that.
It's not something like that. I'm sure of that. So I mean, when you go around Accra, not even Accra. I mean, Eastern Region, Brahafo region. You go around the regions, you find out that street naming has actually been improved massively. I mean, some of these regions have actually completed them, and house naming. The address system has actually been, house numbering has actually been improved upon. So I think that we are heading towards the right direction, but we need some speed into the whole system so that the national identification kind of thing will work. I mean, for example, if I read a headline saying that 220 children back in school, yeah, and I read a story like, let's say 420 children were not attending school, but now half of them are attending school. It's something that I wouldn't be impressed, because I know that we seriously don't have the system where these people are identified. We don't even know where they are. So how would you know the number and know that half of them, you've gotten them back into school? So national identification, seriously important.
It's critical.
Very, very critical. And I mean, let me say that I'm very happy with the steps taken by President Mohammed's administration, especially in the street naming and house numbering. Oh yes, they are very, very important steps. Yeah, they are very, very important steps. So then I think the next step will be the sort of revolution that we want to see in our birth registration and death registration. When we get that also together, then I think we'll be on course.
But as we get back on to wrap up on the subject of the elections, do you think, for example, the Vice President saying we need to re-strategize as to how to best manage the circumstances that we are confronted with, and as a result directing that the members who had their terms expiring before now, or who will be having their terms expiring, should have their terms at least renewed for some temporary time so that they can manage the assemblies? Do you think that's the best way to go?
Well, it's constitutional, isn't it? It's within the powers of the president. So I think that is fine. If we have problems in organizing the elections, I mean, if it's within the powers of the presidency, why not? Because at the end of the day, you just can't say that, look, assembly elections should be in 3 days' time. The country is not ready to run it. Meantime, assembly members go sit home. Yeah, there will be a vacuum. But if it's within the powers of the presidency, which it is, I mean, I don't think that we even need to discuss it.
Okay, well, taking a break. When we come back, we'll be having in the studio a representative of the MPP also, and David Asante will be joining us shortly. Do stay on. You're still watching AM Talk on the AM Show. And David Asante has joined us in the studio. And David, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you.
Okay, we're just making commentary on the subject of the Electoral Commission and how much now, as a cost, we've incurred as a country, and additionally, 90 million more cities needed by the Commission to conduct the next district level polls.
That's right. Let me say good morning to our viewers, and then good morning to yourself, and then my senior colleague on the floor. Ro, it is very unfortunate the EC would have to retire with this very stigma of...
You mean the chairman of the Electoral Commission?
The chairman, I mean, not the commission, but the commissioner, the chairman. One would have thought that after serving the nation in such a faithful manner, there were a few excesses anyway, but at least he's conducted elections over the years which have churned out or given us precedents. The fact that Ghana, as it stands now, is a beacon on the international front as far as democracy is concerned, you cannot tell this success story and rule out the commissioner and the entire commission who led us there. I admit, I led a group, Let My Vote Count Alliance. So one would understand if I advocate for the position that there were too many excesses in the recent elections. That notwithstanding, I do not think the Electoral Commission has fared woefully in the past. So in the light of the above assessment of his performance, one would think that this is going to be the final straw. We were expecting the EC to put his best foot forward to ensure overwhelming success in the district assembly election. Unfortunately, this is where we find ourselves, apart from the fact that there was a big blow from a citizen from the Futu constituency who had a genuine case, and that led to the cancellation of the overall process. We are in another pathetic situation where the EC has wasted 317 million Ghana cedis. It's a constitutional mandate. The elections must be carried out anyway. So he is requesting for another 90 million cedis. Wherever we will find the money to enable him prosecute the agenda, we have to as a nation. So really, I am looking at it from the credibility point of view of the individual in question who has led us through.
And who is the individual? You mean the chairman?
The chairman.
You think he should be held more responsible?
He must answer some questions. Bro, this particular phenomenon of state entities and their leaders leading us into the abyss of wasting state resources, and they sit and the laws of the land just fidget and fiddle with them and they go home.
What do you suggest, David?
He must be held before a court of competent jurisdiction for him to answer the amount of money. This is recklessness on his part. He knew the legal provision that he needed to abide by. You put the document before Parliament, the EC knows the laws of the land and then the framework within which he operates as the chairman of the commission. He simply cannot say he didn't know the right thing to have been done. So the fact that a citizen who was aggrieved took the matter to court, and that has led us to where we are now.
It's no excuse.
It's no excuse.
Okay, I do understand your point, but at what point do you say a body that is mandated to undertake a certain exercise and backed by the provisions of the Constitution that tends to guarantee its independence will be given the free hand to operate? And so if mistakes are made, be it administrative or not, these are mistakes. And sometimes in daily administration, things happen.
Bro, if a medical doctor and his team of paramedics are in the operation theater conducting a surgery and they commit a blunder that leads to the loss of life,
the Medical and Dental Council will have to determine, that's the discipline, whether it's negligence or not.
Sometimes your certificate is even withheld and withdrawn.
That is if it's determined that
if it's determined.
So
the law court has proved, the Supreme Court of the land has proved that the EC erred in the processes involved in the conduction of the district assembly elections. That has led to the cancellation of the process. My point is, did the EC not know that the CI 85 needed 21 days to mature in Parliament before opening nomination and closing it at the wrong time? That led to the aggrieved individual citizen taking the matter
David,
to court.
according to the quotations we're getting from the various news reports this morning, and indeed also reported by Joy News, there's every indication that is saying the Electoral Commissioner said, well, it was an oversight, and then indeed, on behalf of the Commission, Dr. Kwadwo Afarajan, who's the chairman, apologized. That doesn't suffice for you.
And that is a pathetic precedent the nation must not accept.
Apologies are not supposed to be accepted for wrongs done.
So subsequently, as a young man growing up, when I have the opportunity to manage a sector of the economy, I will mess up woefully and come to render an apology.
Because you have hindsight. So you won't go into office.
But again, my point is that the fallout from the Supreme Court and the errors that were committed, which the Electoral Commissioner who stood in the box as a witness on behalf of the Commission, all the errors he admitted. The fact is that in spite of the errors, of course, the eminent judges in their own...
So what do you want? You want him to be thrown in jail? Let's say if it's
not thrown in jail, but I have heard a few individuals and a few groups asking for him to be hauled before Parliament, for him to answer questions, not regarding the fact
he's appeared before Parliament's committee.
But he must be hauled before Parliament on the basis of he causing financial loss. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know whether he can be hauled before the committee of the whole, that's the plenary itself. But what's your reaction to what he's saying? It's not as if it's different from what the other commentaries have been across the public space or the public discourse.
I mean, certainly, I mean, if this money is gone waste. I mean,
it's actually gone waste, not if. It's
well, like I was saying earlier, I mean, in the first place, it's too big a money anyway, and it's unfortunate. It's the same thing as what do you call them, the National Identification kind of Authority. I mean, wasting about 125 million, and then the top man there accepting the fact that that money had gone waste. You see, I mean, let's try and be disciplined in certain things so that at least we don't see this sort of waste. I don't think that it is anything that will need anybody being thrown into jail or something like that. I believe that in democracy is very expensive. Yeah, and these are learning curves for us. And when we put certain things in place,
David doesn't think so. He says there should be no excuse.
Well,
because we're just back from the Supreme Court hearing an election petition case, and this was publicly broadcast.
Supreme Court was very, very educative, wasn't it?
Sure.
Yes. So there are certain things that I believe that come the next general election will not happen. I believe that in these instances, the lessons are being learned. Our democracy is quite young. People are in there still learning. We still have to improve on systems. It's not very easy, sort of like looking at somebody who has been there all these years and have actually conducted so many successful elections. And then we'll just say that haul him and maybe put him in jail. No, I don't think so. Let us also look at the contributions that this individual and the commission has actually contributed to democratic dispensation, and also note some of the mistakes that are being made, and then as a nation, when we correct them, we'll be moving forward.
David, as we wrap up our discussions, and it's unfortunate that you were in not too early, I guess because you were backed down by traffic, etc. Do you think that in many respects we can't say forgive and forget, and the next time we'll put in place the measures and ensure that it doesn't happen? Especially when we know that the individual that we're all talking about and want to be hanged at the gallows is about retiring as well and served the country efficiently. I
agree, but you see, we are at the point where the EC chairman is just at the point of exiting and then going into retirement, and any moment from now, June thereabout, we're supposed to have a new chairman for the commission. My point is, what lesson is Dr. Aferijan leaving for his successor? It is okay, commit a blunder, you'll be pardoned. Is that the lesson we want to learn? It is going to be an awful lesson for us as a nation moving forward. All over Africa.
How about noted? Next time we'll make sure it doesn't happen.
No, but there are a lot of corrupt cases that are before the courts of competent jurisdiction.
Right.
Woyome has still not paid the money to us. Can we ask that?
But this one doesn't smoke of corruption.
I am talking about the principle.
You can't equate that.
I'm talking about the principle of forgive and forget. There is a correlation between the 2 points we're talking about.
I don't think Woyome has been forgiven by any way.
But the point
besides, Woyome's case will be decided today.
Again, my point I'm trying to establish is that if we want to go by the stereotypical Ghanaian nature and attitude of dealing with such issues, it's okay. We should pardon him. After all, he's going on retirement. He's apologized. His apology will not bring the 317 million Ghana cedis back onto the table. You can imagine how we have been plunged down into the economic abyss. What 317 million Ghana cedis can do for us as an economy that is going to reel and kneel before IMF for a bailout, something less than $1 billion US. And then an internal election held by the commissioner sinks us down with such an amount. It's unpardonable.
Okay.
So
he should appear before Parliament.
He should appear before Parliament to answer questions.
And then he's charged for causing
financial loss to the state.
And then jailed, you believe?
I don't know what the outcome of the of the whole process will be.
So
well, let's move on.
All right. So that'll be for our discussions for the morning. And my guest for the morning, Horace Ni Ayankra, former chairman of NDC UK Ireland, and also David Asante with the communication team of the MPP. And thanks for joining me, gentlemen. All right. Thank you. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll be wrapping up for our morning.